We've been very lucky here on the Damage Report in being able to present to you and speak with a number of awesome progressive candidates, some of which still running. The primaries are upcoming. We'll be doing live coverage. Unfortunately, not all of the candidates can actually make it, but there is a lot that we can learn from the experience. We can start to grow in our understanding about the challenges that progressive grassroots candidates face and do better in the future. And so coming on the show once again to help us analyze her recent run in Texas's 37th district, Donna Imam, welcome back to the Damage Report.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. This is such a pleasure. I'm really glad that you're still continuing to really build on what candidates face, and you're forward looking, you're looking into the future. So this is really commendable.
Well, thank you, and we certainly we're interested in each of the individual races, but we're also interested in the war, basically, and in taking lessons from candidates' experience. So, your race ended not too long ago, and so what are some of the things that you learned from it?
Yeah, so to jog all the viewers' memory, my name is Donna Imam. I'm a computer engineer and I ran for Congress in 2020. We won the nomination with the highest voter turnout in the history of the district. Williamson County, North Austin suburbs came in #1 in all of Texas. Now in 2022, redistricting happened in Texas. So Texas got completely redistricted. We got 2 brand new districts. So it was an opportunity to send more representation for the policy choices that all of us can agree on. Healthcare coverage for every single person, right? Not just incremental coverage, really solving the education problem. So I ran on not just saying, hey, student loan debt is a scam, but also that we have to ensure that the next generation of graduating high schoolers that want to go to college can also graduate debt free. These are extremely important policies that I know that your viewers really care about. So what happens? So in 37th district is a highly gerrymandered blue district in Texas, believe it or not. So they've packed in all the Democrats, which means that even though I ran in a primary on March 1st, and Texas had the primaries earliest in the entire country. So during presidential election, we hear about the Iowa caucuses in New Hampshire, et cetera. But in midterms, Texas is #1. It leads with primaries. So I was in the March 1st primary, and of course, when you're up against candidates with millions of dollars, for example, I was a grassroots candidate. We, were outraised, and outspent 5-1. Yet this time around, when I ran in 2020, we had thousands of grassroots donors, many more than the first time when I ran in the primary rather. So what we showed is that our campaign, when people actually found out about our campaign through, for example, interviews like this, through the Damage Report, they were extremely engaged and they wanted to see these policies go to Congress. So it is very clear that we have the support once we can get our message to voters. But the biggest challenge for grassroots candidates like myself is how do we ensure sustainability, scalability, and really reduce the barrier to entry for candidates like myself, grassroots candidates that are not backed by major PACs. Even PACs, that may be supporting these types of policies aren't able to, for example, support hundreds and hundreds of candidates. And why is that? They're limited, right? So for example, we have major PACs out there that are supporting single payer healthcare, for example, right? Eliminating student loan debt, but they're only able to support a few candidates. What we're about to do is something completely different. So in my campaign, here's what happened. Even in 2022, out of every single Texas race, our district had the highest Democratic voter turnout in all of Texas. And there were 2 races, highly packed gerrymandered districts right next to each other in Austin, 37 and 35. And yet our campaign had tens of thousands of more voters, Democratic voters that showed up. We were able to engage voters when we got out the vote. And how do we do that? We went to over 60,000, we reached 60,000 voters at their home, at their door. So even being outspent 5-1, we were able to do that. And this is one of the main reasons we have such high voter turnout. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get the result that we wanted, but that doesn't mean this is the end. This is just the beginning of what we're about to do and change up, campaigns all across this country in a way that's never been seen before.
Well, then I have to follow that up. So what's it going to look like?
So I'll start with some of the challenges that grassroots candidates face. One of the biggest things that grassroots candidates face is obviously money. We hear about this all the time, right? We're outspent. We don't know where to start, especially working people who want to run for office, for example, right? They have a full-time job. They have a family. They don't have millions of dollars. They don't have PACs and organizations and corporations pouring money. And one of the biggest things that's talked about, right, especially among people on the left, Democrats, people who consider themselves progressives, is we need to get money out of politics, right? The other thing we hear about is publicly funded campaigns. Why do we hear that? Because we know that it is unfair if a candidate can't get their message across. I know for a fact that when we got our message across successfully, we got out the vote, and we showed that over and over again. And if you can get out the vote, you have a much better chance if people know who you are and what you stand for. So when they get to the ballot box, they vote for your campaign, right? So we know that one of the biggest challenges is getting money out of politics. And we know that because of Citizens United, this is going to be a long, hard road. So we have to come up with innovative ways to do this. So what happens in primaries specifically is that a lot of times candidates get very little support because it's the primary. It's like, okay, when you make it through the primary, we'll support you. So the big organizations and PACs, they reserve their funds until you're up against, let's say, the GOP candidate, right? So they wait. And that eliminates some really amazing candidates with lots of talent early on in the process. So how do you help candidates? The only way you can do that is by giving them money. And donors have limited amount of money because grassroots candidates are not getting money from the ultra wealthy. We're not getting money from billionaires. We're getting money from average working people like ourselves, right? And they have limited amounts of money or cash that they are able to give to candidates. So they have to pick and choose, hey, do I want to give to Donna? Do I want to give to some other candidate, right? So you're limited. So how do we make your dollar count hundreds of times more? What we want to do is we want to reduce the barrier to entry to run for office, and we want to scale the way we run campaigns across this country, and we want to help you vertically integrate your campaign. So how do you do that? And I'll give you some very specific examples. Let's say, for example, you're trying to communicate with donors to raise money. So you need some sort of email marketing program. Majority of candidates may use something like Action Network or NGP Van or something to that effect. Now those can cost anywhere between $500 to $1,000 to $2,000. So as you build up your database, they cost $2,000 to $3,000 just to be able to send email. Think about it from that perspective. Think about the cost of getting an actual website and running a website. A lot of times you're hiring a company to design a website and you're talking about $3,000, $4,000, maybe more. So all of this money adds up. Now let's say, for example, you even had a PAC to support you and say, hey, we'll give you money. New PACs can only donate about up to $2,900 per election cycle. So in the primary, they can do 29 and they can do 29 again if you make it through. But remember, most grassroots candidates are not making it through the primary because they're cash strapped early on, right? So for example, if you're a PAC that's been around for a long time, you can only donate 5,000. But 5,000, you can spend it very easily in 2 or 3 months. What if we made that completely $0 cost to you? So we are able to find ways so you can host your own email marketing absolutely for a fraction, pennies on the dollar. What if you spent less than $100 or $200 a month instead of $1,000 and $2,000 a month? And guess what? We can do this over and over and over again for every single campaign across this country. So if there are 500 races going on that we want to help candidates, maybe multiple candidates one race to make it more fair, we can do this over and over again. So let's say, for example, you donate, $10 to a candidate. Your $10 now you multiply by 500. You're actually donating $5,000 $1,000 when you use our system of vertically integrating campaigns. So we take away all these $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 expense, sort of like this infrastructure expense that you have every single month. It is like our organization can donate to you over and over and over again every single month in perpetuity for the rest of time. So what are we doing? We are allowing candidates to run for office without having large amounts of money to start, number one. Number two is working people who are, have to work for a living. Running for office is very difficult for them. They can't just drop everything and spend all the time calling for money. So this lowers the burden to them in a huge way. The third thing is if you're running in down ballot races, let's say not congressional, but you're running in city council races, right? School board races, which by the way, the GOP is attacking in a big way. This is an opportunity for down ballot candidates that really have a difficult time raising money to run a campaign almost cost-free, pennies on the dollar, and be able to succeed. And that's what I think is really gonna change up the way people run a campaign, especially grassroots candidates like myself.
Is the idea that, well, what's the timeline on this? Is this the idea that this would potentially be rolled out for the current election cycle?
Well, it can be rolled out as soon as we can get it out. So one of the biggest things that we need, and that's why I'm on here, I wanted to share this with you, is we need software developers. We need people with database experience. And so we want you to come join us. Let's build an infrastructure so we can help hundreds and hundreds of candidates so we don't have to say no to anybody. And we'll roll this out as soon as possible and we'll make it available. We don't have to go in and vet candidates and say, you know what, we can only support one candidate in certain races, or we're geographically limited, or we're limited to only this type of candidate. Now we can help grassroots candidates across this country with unlimited amount of resources. And it's not just we're giving them resources, because there are a lot of organizations out there that give you training and resources and help you with volunteers, but we're actually reducing the cost. So actual dollars that you would pay that go straight to a corporation, right? A company like NGP Van or Action Network, or whether it be a consulting firm, or whether it's your texting platform, right? Instead of now the same amount of money that you would send one text, you can send 3 texts, right? So now you're making more voter contact. So you can see if you take that and you multiply by 500, 1,000 races across the country in perpetuity, month after month after month. Now all of a sudden you're taking away the cost to campaign, the basic tools that you need to run a successful campaign in a big, big way. One of the criticisms that grassroots candidates get is, well, you didn't run a good campaign. And what you're really saying is, hey, you didn't have enough money to hire consultants, to do all of your graphics work, to do production to make it look great. Well, if we take all this fundamental thousands of dollars of expenditures every month away from you, now you can use the money that you do raise to run even a better campaign. And it's sustainable and it's scalable in a huge way.
So fast follow up, you mentioned needing software engineers for the developers for the project. Where would they contact you about this?
So follow me on all my social, and you can email me. So votedonna.org, donnaimam.org. All these websites still work. Email contact@votedonna.org if you want to get involved. Message us, and we'll get you integrated. We're building out the team right now. We're building the people that want to be part of it, and we want to build it into an organization, like I said, that provides all of these tools absolutely at zero cost to candidates across this country. And I think this is going to be a huge game changer for grassroots candidates reaching voters in a way that they've never done before.
Well, look, I certainly appreciate you taking your experience of running races and experiencing these obstacles and trying to make sure that the next set of candidates doesn't. So I do appreciate that. And thank you for joining us and breaking down the idea.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate it. And I hope you'll spread this word, and I hope your viewers will let everybody know too.
Thank you.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.